Hey everybody, welcome to Bill Sky, the Java Guy, and this is yet another video on the Java programming language. Today we're going to be talking about doing simple math. Now if you're a C or C++ programmer, you can pretty much just skip this video. However, it is kind of nice to see me every once in a while, so you might want to stay. But we're just going to talk about very simple math. And math, what I mean by that, and not even math, really just arithmetic. And then we're going to talk about advanced math things later on in another video, but just basic math today. Going to be a quick video. Let's get to it. Okay, so let me go ahead and get another Java project all set up here. And now if you haven't seen the video on data types, you might want to go back and take a look at that before you do this video. So let's just go ahead and call this one simple. I'm going to call it simple math, even though it's simpler than math. It's actually just arithmetic. And let's go ahead and rename the program file simple math. And then let's make sure we name our class simple math. And again, this isn't really optional. Your Java file must be the same name as your class within the file. And let's go ahead and stick this as the 13th because that's that today. Let's go ahead and build it. I think I got all the spots. Yep, got them fine. Okay, so we're all ready to go. Let's go ahead and start defining some variables so we can do some math. So I'm just going to say integer int1 equals 100. I'm going to say integer int2 equals 200. We're going to do some floating points. So let's say double 1 equals 123.456. And I'm going to say double 2 equals 456.789. Okay, so we've got our variables set up. Let's start doing some arithmetic with those variables. So I'm going to first of all do addition. So let's play around with some addition. I'm simply going to say int1 equals int1 plus 2. Now what we're doing here is we're saying take the value that's located at int1, add 2 to that value. Now it's not adding it to int1 just now. It simply says take int1, the value of int1, put it in a temporary place somewhere, add 2 to that temporary place, and then the equal sign or the assignment operator, that says then take that temporary place and put it back into int1. So int1 is 100. It's going to put the 100, I don't know, somewhere over here. It's then going to add 2 to that 100 that's somewhere over here. And then it's going to copy that 102 into int1. Okay? So that's a literal. 2 is a literal. It's actually adding the literal 2 to the value that's actually, it's adding it to the value that was in int1 and then copying that back to int1. I could also say int1 equals int1 plus int2. So I could say take the value that's in int1, put it out here somewhere, take the value that's in int2, add it to that value that's out there somewhere, and then move that sum into the int1 variable. Now, it doesn't do us very much good to just have it there, so we can't really see what it's doing. So let's say value of int1 is and let's just copy that and stick it right there. And let's make sure I've got that right. Okay, let's go ahead and build it. Okay, I think I've got a syntax error somewhere in here. Oh, I think I've got double quotes. Yep, that's the problem. I got double quotes. Too many quotes. All right, let's run it. Oh, but I want to put the dot slash just like that. There we go. So the value of int1 was 100. The value after we added the literal 2 to it is now 102. Then we add 200, which is an int2. We add that to int1 and we put it back into int1. So, and it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to put that up on top so we can see the difference as the program executes. System.out.println is going to be your should be your favorite statement when you're developing a program. All right, that's simple addition. Now there's also a thing called I can increment things. I can say int 1 plus plus. Now what that's going to do is it's going to add 1 to int 1. So it's a shorthand way of doing that, of saying int 1 equals int 1 plus 1, int plus plus. Now you can't say int plus plus 2 to add 2 to it. It's just int plus plus. And let's go ahead and copy that there, and let's see how that works. Let's run it. And you can see it was 302 before we did the increment, and now there's 303, so it added 1. Another way of doing this, I could say int 1 plus equals 4. That says take the number 4, add it, and assign it to int 1. Go ahead and build it. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea to put that system out just so you can see actually what's happening. Yep, so it took 303, I added 4 to it, and there you go. So it's now 307. That's addition. Let's try subtraction. This is going to be really simple. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say system.out.print. Well, let's make sure I type that in right. So let's put something there so it's easy to find it in our output. And now let's do the same thing for subtraction. I'm going to copy all of that, and you're going to see why. And now what we're going to do is we're going to test subtraction. And instead of plus, I'm simply going to say minus. It works exactly the same way as addition. Even with the decrementer or the incrementer, even with the plus equals, I say minus equals. Let's build that. Let's run it. Let's take a look at our output. Okay, so it was 307 when it began. And there's the 307. We went ahead and we subtracted 2, and now it's 305. We then added or subtracted int 2, which is 200. We subtracted that from int 1. So that's 305 minus 200 would be 105. Then we decrement it by 1. That brings us to 104. And then we subtract 4 from that with the minus equals 4. And that takes us back to 100. Pretty simple stuff. Okay, let's do the same thing with multiplication. And I'm just going to copy a bunch of stuff. Now, the minus, there is no such thing as multiply. There is such a thing as, I don't know if there's a multiply equals. Let's try that out. So I think there is, but let's go ahead and say, yeah, maybe. So all I have to do is put an asterisk here for multiplication. You can't do asterisk, well, let's try it. So I'm just changing all the subtractions into multiplications, and I do not believe there's a multiplication. Okay, so let's get rid of that. But I do believe there's a times equals 4. Okay, let's run it. And let's take a look. Oh, I still said subtraction. Let's say multiplication. You know, you might look at that and say, well, I'm just going to leave it and do it later. I'm going to change that subtraction to multiplication. The problem is you're going to forget to do that. So just get it done. No procrastination in programming. Bad habit to get into. Okay, so it was 100 when we began. I multiplied it by 2. It's now 200. I multiplied it by 200. 200 times 200 gave us 40,000. Then I said 40,000 times 4 and assign it back, and we got 160,000. Pretty neat. So multiplication is the same way. Let's try division. So I'm just going to copy all that, and I'm going to call this division, obviously. And we're going to divide it by 2. That's the /. We're going to divide it by int 2. We're going to say divided by equals to 4, and there is no divided. So there's no kind of incrementer for that. Go back to terminal, run it, and we can see that we took 160,000, we divided it by 2, we got 80,000. We divided that by int 2, which is 200, and that gave us 400. Then we divided it by 4, and that gave us 100. So that is our multiplication and division. Now, one thing, or in addition and subtraction, one thing you want to be careful about is mixed type arithmetic. Let's just call it math. So in other words, if I say int 1 equals double 1 divided by int 2, that actually will work, and let's actually see. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste. But what we're doing there is we're dividing a double by an integer. That, is it even going to let me do it? Oh, it can't find symbol. Oh, I forgot an E. Let's make sure we put that E in there. And it says error, cannot find sub double. Oh, I think it was double 1. Oh, I typed it in wrong. So double 1. So in this case, the compiler, the compiler won't even let me do it. It says you're trying to do things in such a way that could cause a problem. Well, what I could do, I could put a parenthesis in front of the int 2 and then close a parenthesis with the word double in it. And what that's going to do is it's going to cast int 2 into a double. And it says incompatible types. So we're still having a problem here. So you see the issues that the compiler's trying to help you. So let's say double 2. Let's say if that's going to work. And that worked fine. So the compiler, so mixed type arithmetic is really a bad idea. You need to be very, very careful with that. And the reason is because you could lose data, you could lose precision, you could lose number. You could come up with an inaccurate number and lose fractions, things like that. So the compiler is trying to help you out. If you absolutely must do that, you have a couple of options. You could create another variable. So I could say double 3 equals 0. So one thing you could do is I could say, okay, double 3 equals int 2. Let's see if that builds okay. Yep. And then I could say double 2 equals double 1 divided by double 3. You could do that. These two lines of code, no problem. However, those two lines of code are the same as that one line of code, except they're less efficient because you're using up more memory. In this case, you're casting an integer, in this case integer 2, into a double, then dividing that into double 1, and then assigning it to double 2. So mixed type math is not a good idea. Try to stay away from it, but there are ways around it. All right, I don't know how much more simple that could be. Pretty simple. Practice it. That is simple arithmetic or simple math in Java. We're going to be talking more about math. We're going to be talking about mathematical functions and things like that in future videos. So keep coding in Java.